He married a woman for a $1 million bet, but 6 months later, she revealed the truth that destroyed him. If you enjoy what we do, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Have you ever made a decision just to prove you could? Ethan Caldwell had. He was the kind of man who never lost. At 38, Ethan had built one of Chicago's most powerful investment firms. He bought struggling companies, turned huge profits, and rarely cared what happened to the people left behind. To him, life was simple. There were winners, and there were everyone else. So when his longtime friend, Ryan, challenged him during an upscale rooftop party overlooking downtown Chicago, Ethan laughed. "You've conquered Wall Street," Ryan teased while raising his whiskey glass. "But I bet there's one thing you don't have the guts to do," Ethan smirked. "Try me," Ryan grinned. "I'll bet you $1 million that you won't marry a woman who's completely outside your type and stay married for 6 months. The table erupted with laughter. For Ethan, it sounded ridiculous. Then Ryan slid a folder across the table. Inside was a photograph. Her name was Emma Brooks. She wasn't an influencer, a socialite, or the glamorous women Ethan usually dated. She worked for a nonprofit organization helping struggling families rebuild after financial disasters. She looked confident. Ordinary. Completely unimpressed by luxury. Ryan leaned closer. "If you make it 6 months without backing out, the million is yours." Ethan barely hesitated. "Deal." He signed the agreement before anyone could change their minds. At the time, he believed he was accepting the easiest $1 million of his life. He couldn't have been more wrong. A week later, they met for dinner. Ethan reserved one of Chicago's most exclusive restaurants, expecting to impress her before she'd even spoken. Emma arrived wearing simple business clothes instead of designer labels. She didn't seem intimidated by the crystal chandeliers or the celebrity-filled dining room. She simply sat across from him. "So," she said calmly, "you know why we're here?" Ethan nodded. "You know about the arrangement? I know everything." Her confidence caught him off guard. Most people acted nervous around him. Emma looked almost bored. "I'm only agreeing because I have my own reasons," she continued. "But let's get something straight." She leaned forward. "You won't control my life. No telling me who I can see. No forcing me to quit my job. No pretending we're some fairy tale couple. This is 6 months. Then we walk away." Ethan couldn't help smiling. Finally, a challenge. "Fine." She extended her hand. For 6 months, he shook it. Neither realized that handshake would change both of their lives forever. Over the next few weeks, they met several more times. Ethan tried introducing her to expensive restaurants. Emma preferred neighborhood diners. He offered private drivers. She drove her own aging Honda. He suggested luxury vacations. She spent weekends volunteering. Nothing about her fit into his carefully controlled world. Oddly enough, that only made him more curious. The wedding happened quietly. No magazine covers. No celebrity guests. Just lawyers, signatures, and a handful of witnesses. It felt more like a business merger than a marriage. Afterward, Ethan brought her to his breathtaking penthouse overlooking Lake Michigan. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Original artwork. A wine collection worth more than most homes. Emma looked around for a few seconds, then shrugged. "Nice place. That was all. No excitement. No amazement. No attempt to hide disappointment. Remember," she reminded him. 6 months. He nodded confidently. 6 months. He still believed she'd eventually fall for the lifestyle. Every woman had before. Emma didn't. The gifts started arriving almost immediately. Diamond earrings, luxury handbags, designer clothes, a sports car. Every morning, another surprise waited for her. Every afternoon, she politely returned it. "I don't need any of this." At first, Ethan laughed. Then he grew irritated. Finally, he became obsessed. Why wasn't it working? Money had always solved everything. Whenever she insisted on keeping her nonprofit job, Ethan found excuses to interfere. He rescheduled meetings, had his assistant accidentally cancel appointments. He even suggested she should stop working altogether. "My wife doesn't need a paycheck." Emma looked him directly in the eyes. "My independence isn't for sale." Those words stayed with him, not because they hurt, because nobody had ever dared say them. Their arguments became routine. Every conversation turned into a battle neither wanted to lose. One evening, Ethan finally exploded. "I don't understand you." He paced across the living room. "You could have anything. Private jets, vacation homes. Money you'll never spend. Most people would kill for this life." Emma slowly closed the book she was reading, then stood. "What I want is respect." Her voice never rose. "You think wealth gives you power. It doesn't. It just hides who you really are." Ethan stared. "You buy companies. You buy loyalty. You buy silence. But you've never learned the one thing money can't purchase. And what's that?" She looked straight through him. "A conscience." The room went silent. No business rival. No journalist. Not even his own board members had ever spoken to him like that. For the first time in years, someone had made Ethan Caldwell feel small. Instead of reflecting, he doubled down. He became more controlling, more manipulative, more determined to prove he could break her stubbornness. Yet every attempt failed. Emma refused to argue, refused to beg, refused to surrender. The harder he pushed, the calmer she became. Weeks passed. Something unexpected happened. Ethan found himself watching her. Not because of the bet, because he genuinely wanted to understand her. Why did she seem untouched by wealth? Why didn't she hate him? Why didn't she fear him? For the first time in his adult life, winning no longer felt satisfying. Understanding her did. One evening, his friend Ryan noticed. "You've changed." Ethan forced a laugh. "Don't be ridiculous," Ryan shook his head. "You don't talk about winning anymore. You talk about Emma." That sentence lingered long after dinner ended. Maybe Ryan was right. Maybe somewhere between the arguments, the silent breakfasts, and the constant battles, the bet had stopped feeling like a game. But Emma was still hiding something. Sometimes Ethan would catch her staring out over the city with an expression filled with sadness. Other nights she'd disappear for hours without explanation. Whenever he asked, she smiled politely. "You'll understand eventually." One rainy evening, after another tense silence over dinner, she finally looked at him and quietly said something that sent a chill down his spine. "You still think you're the one in control," she smiled. A smile unlike any he'd seen before. "But this story, it was never yours. It was mine from the very beginning." Ethan's stomach tightened. For the first time, he realized he might not be the hunter. He might have been the target all along. Ethan couldn't sleep that night. Emma's words echoed in his head over and over. "This story was never yours. It was mine." For the first time in years, the man who had built billion-dollar deals couldn't predict what would happen next. He hired a private investigator, then another. He searched public records, business archives, court documents. Nothing explained who Emma really was. It was as if she'd erased her past on purpose. Every answer only created more questions. A few weeks later, their 6-month agreement was nearly over. One evening, Ethan returned home after a board meeting and found Emma standing on the balcony overlooking the Chicago skyline. She didn't turn around. "I've been waiting for you," she said quietly. Ethan walked closer. "If this is about your secret, I'm ready," Emma nodded. "You deserve the truth," she faced him. Her eyes were calm, but filled with years of pain. "Do you remember Brooks Manufacturing?" Ethan frowned. The name sounded familiar. "I've bought hundreds of companies." "I know," she swallowed hard. "That's exactly the problem." Emma slowly stepped toward him. "My father owned Brooks Manufacturing. It was a small family business. He spent 30 years building it." Ethan's face tightened. Then, fragments of an old memory returned. A hostile takeover, aggressive negotiations, a bankruptcy, layoffs. Another profitable acquisition. At the time, it had been just another business deal. To Emma, it had been the end of everything. "You forced his company into bankruptcy," she continued. "He lost our home. He lost his employees. He lost his purpose." Ethan couldn't speak. "My father blamed himself." Her voice cracked. 3 months later, he took his own life. Silence filled the penthouse. The city lights outside suddenly felt painfully distant. Ethan's legs nearly gave out. "No, it can't," Emma interrupted him. "It did. And while you celebrated another successful acquisition, my mother and I were standing at his funeral." Every word landed like a hammer. For years, Ethan had measured success in numbers, stock prices, profit margins, market share. He had never stopped to wonder what happened after the contracts were signed. Emma wiped away a tear. "When I heard about Ryan's ridiculous bet, I saw an opportunity. I wanted you to experience something you'd never felt." "What?" She looked directly into his eyes. "Powerlessness. You spent your life deciding who wins and who loses, so I made sure you'd finally lose." Ethan felt sick. "You married me for revenge?" "At first," she answered honestly. "I wanted you to wake up every morning beside someone whose life you'd destroyed. I wanted you to question yourself. I wanted you to suffer." Ethan lowered his head. "I'm sorry." The words sounded empty. "I know," Emma nodded. "That's why I never wanted your apology. I wanted your conscience." Then she quietly packed a small suitcase. "The 6 months are over." She placed the wedding ring on the kitchen counter. "I'm leaving." Without another word, she walked out. For days, Ethan barely left the apartment. He ignored phone calls, canceled meetings, skipped interviews. Nothing mattered anymore. He replayed every business deal he'd ever made. How many families had he destroyed? How many dreams had disappeared because they increased his quarterly earnings? For the first time, success felt like failure. Instead of trying to find Emma, he decided to change himself, quietly, without cameras, without press releases. He began visiting families whose businesses had collapsed because of his company's takeovers. Some slammed the door in his face, some cursed him. Others simply cried. He accepted every reaction, because he knew he deserved it. His company changed too. Predatory acquisitions stopped. Employee protection programs were introduced. Small business recovery funds were created. Former competitors received investment opportunities instead of legal threats. His shareholders hated it. His profits dropped. For the first time, Ethan didn't care. Months passed. Emma watched everything from a distance. She had expected another performance, another rich man pretending to change. Instead, he kept changing, even when nobody was watching. One rainy afternoon, she finally agreed to meet him. Not in a luxury restaurant, not in his penthouse, but at the same neighborhood coffee shop where they'd once shared tea. Ethan looked different. No expensive watch, no designer suit, just a tired man carrying years of regret. "I don't expect forgiveness," he said. "I only wanted you to know you were right. I spent my entire life believing money solved everything. I was wrong." Emma studied him. For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, she asked, "Why didn't you stop?" He smiled sadly. "Because I never looked at people. I only looked at numbers." Weeks turned into months. They slowly rebuilt something neither believed was possible. Not romance. Not yet. Trust. Tiny conversations became longer. Coffee became dinner. Dinner became walks along the lake. For the first time, they were getting to know each other without a contract hanging over them. One evening, Ethan invited Emma to the rooftop where Ryan had proposed the bet almost a year earlier. The skyline sparkled beneath them. "I've thought about this moment every day," Ethan admitted. He reached into his pocket. "Not with the original wedding ring, but with a completely new one. I don't want another agreement. I don't want another deadline. I don't want another bet." He took a deep breath. "I just want a chance. Emma Brooks, will you marry me again? This time because you choose me?" Tears filled her eyes. For several seconds she couldn't answer. Then, she smiled. The first marriage was built on pride. She slipped the ring onto her finger. This one can be built on honesty. Yes. A few months later, they held a small ceremony beside Lake Michigan. No celebrities. No billionaires. No reporters. Only close friends. And a handful of families Ethan had helped rebuild over the previous year. Ryan watched from the back row. He quietly shook his head. "I thought I was making a stupid bet." Instead, he had accidentally changed 2 lives forever. Nearly a year after their second wedding, Emma handed Ethan a small gift box. Inside was a tiny pair of baby shoes. He stared at them in disbelief, then looked up. "Really?" Emma nodded through happy tears. "We're going to be parents." Ethan wrapped his arms around her. For a man who had once believed life was measured by wealth, nothing had ever felt more valuable. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't winning. It's becoming someone worthy of love after finally facing the damage you've caused. And Ethan knew that was the hardest and most important deal he'd ever made.